Hi, this is Susan Hamilton, and you are listening to the Offbeat Business Show. And I am here with John DiLucci this morning, and we've got some really interesting conversation. So how many of you think that you know just enough about your own taxes to be really dangerous? You know, we probably do, don't we? I know I don't like to play with taxes. I don't like to mess with them. Have I? Yes. Yes, I have. And I'm sure that's put me in uncomfortable situations before. I don't like to do my own taxes, John. I don't like to have to fiddle with my own paperwork and understand what goes where. I really love to have the resources in place to know who to trust. But why don't you tell my audience a little bit about your company? Would you give us the name of your company and where you're located?
Sure. Yes, the name of our firm is Masters of Taxation, and it is named such because my partner has a master's degree in taxation, so we weren't too creative there.
Oh, really? I like it, though. I like it. Masters.
Yeah, it's descriptive.
Yes.
It says what we do.
Uh-huh.
And we're located in Las Colinas area.
Wonderful. But you're not limited to serving this area. I thought that was really cool. You're not limited to serving even North Texas. You
That's
can
true.
go anywhere.
That's true. Our taxes are federal. My license is federal, so I can do IRS representation work in any state, tax returns in any state. I've done tax representation in Wisconsin, New York, California, a number of other states. So yeah, we're not limited to Texas.
And you know, the reason I bring that up, folks, is because a lot of times with an LLC or with a partnership, you may have a business running out of another state. And
Yeah,
and so a lot of times that can be confusing. How do you set that up? And it's really great. I wanted you to know you had a resource in John DiLucci and Masters of Taxation, because to understand that the law that might be going on in the other state, you know, you think you're busy enough. You are busy enough. You do not need to know this. You need to know who your resources are. So before we even get started, can you give us a phone number and a way to reach you?
Yes, absolutely. Our website address is masters-of-tax.com, and the phone number is 972-444-9934. Or if you want to reach me directly, straight to my cell phone, it's 844-STOP-IRS.
Awesome, and that's so important. We were talking, and one of the things I wanted you to share with my audience today was this idea that we don't really understand the terminology about who to hire when it's time to help. So we've got CPAs, we've got enrolled agents that I understand is a pretty big deal. And what is the difference between these terms, and what is the difference between using a company like this versus maybe a large franchise that is well known, doing advertisements on television? Can you help us understand a little bit of the difference?
Absolutely. It's an unfortunate thing that there are approximately 400,000 people out there who do tax returns for a living, who pass no exam, no licensing requirements. They don't have to do any continuing education. And a lot of people, they'll go to a Jackson Hewitt or a place like that and think, oh, that's my CPA. And no.
Oh, wow.
Overwhelmingly, they're not.
Okay.
And so really that's the first thing that I recommend people look for, okay, is that if it's an enrolled agent, and they've taken the exam, okay, then they know something about taxes.
So a CPA is an enrolled agent?
No, CPA is an unenrolled agent. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, when you hire a CPA, okay, there are a couple things that are true.
All right.
Number one, that person's intelligent. Number two, they're hardworking. But that doesn't necessarily mean they know anything about taxes.
Okay.
The CPA exam only has about 20 questions on taxation. My exam had 400. So CPAs don't necessarily know much about taxation. Now, if you find somebody who has a master's degree in taxation, okay, clearly that person knows something. Or if they're in private practice and they've been doing it for a number of years, probably they know something because they've had to pay their mortgage based on their knowledge of doing tax returns.
Right.
But you don't want the CPA who is a controller at some company, does tax returns every now and then for extra money. You don't want that person. You don't want the person who works in a public accounting firm but is in the audit department, because that person probably doesn't know much about taxes. You want to make sure that they are somebody who focuses on tax returns.
Yeah, the lingo is something else, and there's so much to cover.
Yeah.
So that would be a CPA. Now help us understand what it is when by the time you're an enrolled agent. Help us understand the difference there.
Between a CPA and an enrolled agent?
Yes, sir.
Well, enrolled agents, we have to, well, if you take the exam, there's another way to become an enrolled agent.
Okay, wonderful. Help
Yes.
us understand, because John, this is a very confusing place for business owners, and you understand that so many, 80% of American small businesses are family-owned businesses of 9 employees
yes.
or less, and they tend to do this stuff in-house.
Yeah.
So while there's 400,000 out there doing taxes, business owners really think that they can learn and manage this type of information by themselves. So that's why I ask you these questions, to be very clear for us.
Yes, and I'd really recommend, see, a person who's at a W-2 job, that person can do their own tax return, not a lot of risk, there's not a lot happening. But if you own a business or you have real estate properties, you really should have a tax professional, somebody who is focused, does tax returns for a living, has a license, okay, passes an exam, okay, so you know they know something, and overwhelmingly, you'll find that that person will save you money over you doing it yourself, because you can't keep up with the tax law. I mean, it's 70,000 pages of stuff.
Okay.
You know, so,
John, that's absolutely true. I'll tell you what, we have to go to break, and when I come back, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Thank you. Keep listening in, because we're not done covering some really cool stuff with John DiLucci of Masters of Taxation.
okay.
Did I miss your noise? Oh, you're stopping because of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't.
But
I didn't catch. Well, normally he gives me the 2-minute warning, and he didn't.
Yeah.
He was just like, no. I thought, oh wow, did we go
Okay.
over?
No, I just need to check something.
Okay.
Uh,
How's it all sounding?
Sounds good.
Okay.
But I'm
Was he in?
looking for peaks where this,
Okay,
and it doesn't show. I was just making sure. I was just being paranoid.
thank you. That's not
I think we're
paranoid.
gonna
That's
pick up
professional. I appreciate that.
Ready to rock and roll?
And we're back. This is Susan Hamilton. And we're back. This is Susan Hamilton with the Offbeat Business Show with John DiLucci of Masters of Taxation Incorporated, here out of the Las Colinas area, but serving businesses nationwide and helping them really make sense of a very confusing situation in America today, and that taxes. It's a very confusing thing.
Yeah.
You were helping us understand enrolled agents. And if you could, kind of finish that thought a little bit for us.
Yes. See, with CPAs and with enrolled agents, you can't just assume the person knows about taxes. Okay, you have to dig a little bit deeper. And I told you about the CPAs, what
Right.
to look for there. For enrolled agents, there are 2 ways to become an enrolled agent. One is you work for the IRS for 5 years.
Now that sounds like a wonderful thing, John.
You would think so, but not necessarily. And here's why. Let's say that person is in the customer service area and answers questions on Schedule A, and that's what they do. Great, they know Schedule A backwards and forwards. What about B, C, D, and E? What about partnership tax returns, corporation tax returns, trusts, etc.?
And for me, the form, what forms to use? Because
Yeah.
one form doesn't say, now go get the next form.
No. And that person may not know
Right?
anything about that. Now,
Yeah.
I know people who worked at the IRS, okay, for more than 5 years. They filled out the form, and they're excellent, okay? But not necessarily. I've encountered other enrolled agents who worked for the IRS for 5 years, and they don't really know much at all. They know that one thing they did
Really, really well.
But that's
Yeah.
it. That's it. Whereas if somebody takes the exam, like myself, you know they have at least a basic knowledge of pretty much everything, because it tests everything.
Oh, John, that had to take so long. And tell me about your regular education. You've got continuing ed going on here. Tell us about how frequently you have to stay updated on the changes in tax law.
Well, to be an enrolled agent, I'm trying to remember how much continuing education you have to have. I think it's 78 hours every 3 years, if I
Okay,
recall.
all right.
But I mean, myself, I tend to do about 100 hours a year, so I don't really worry about what the minimum requirement is.
Okay, all right. So you're just way over it, and you
Yeah.
don't have to go leaning back on that. And that's wonderful. I'll tell you, we get really confused about our taxes. And John, it's easy to get in trouble. And I noticed that one of the things that you really like to talk about are ways to stay out of trouble. And I wonder if you would share with us one particular thing that is a great way to stay out of trouble with the IRS. Because once you're in trouble, what can that mean? I mean, once you're in, what can happen? What are the dangers of being in trouble?
Well, once you're in trouble, I mean, having the IRS in your life, I mean, it's almost like having lice. I mean, getting them out, it's a slow, painful process.
Ouch.
Yeah. So it's better just to keep them out of your life.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
And one of the ways we've been talking about is
I think he nailed it there, don't you? Yeah, I really think he got that.
is to hire a good tax professional, okay? And you got to spend some time on that. And don't think that just because you picked an enrolled agent or you picked a CPA, okay, I'm good.
Oh.
One of our recent clients, he picked a CPA, and he didn't pick the right CPA. Because at the end of the day, and I know this guy, he's honest as the day is long, and he was just trying to run his business, but he would sign his tax returns, the CPA put it in front of him, he just signed it, and off he went. At the end of the day, when the IRS came in and audited him, he ended up having over $600,000 of fraud penalties.
Geez, so that put him out of business, I imagine.
Yeah, it did. And you've got to be careful which CPA you pick. Get references.
Okay.
So that's one of the biggest things, is pick a good tax professional. Some others that aren't quite as obvious, make sure the IRS always knows where you live.
Oh, that isn't very obvious, because we really assume that all our information is getting covered there, that they know where we live. What if they don't?
And that's, see, here's what happens when you file your tax return. The IRS knows your address at that point in time. What if you move?
What if you really don't want him to know where you live?
Well, see, that's how a lot of people think. You would think, I don't want the IRS to know where I'm at. But here's the problem. What if something is wrong with one of your tax returns?
Okay.
Or what if life happened and you forgot to file a tax return?
We don't know anything about that, business owners, do we? Life happening in
business,
right?
Yeah, stuff happens, right? And so the IRS sends you a very important notice, okay, that you really need to respond to. But because you didn't tell them where you live, they sent it to the old address, okay? You didn't get it. And so now your rights are expiring because time is passing, and the legal obligation of the IRS ends with sending you the letter. If they send it to the last known address, legally they have fulfilled their obligation. If you don't get it, oh well. So a lot of people think like they'll get a certified mail letter from the IRS and they'll think, okay, I'm not going to pick it up. It's not like a letter for a lawsuit. Okay, if you don't get it, you haven't been served. It's not like that. Whether you receive it or not, it doesn't matter. They sent it. They're covered. And so that's why you want them to know where your address is. Because otherwise you don't get it, and your rights are expiring, and it's just a bad news item.
John, it's so important. Is there one thing, besides calling you, of course, because I do think that if we've got a resource like this, folks, and we don't use it, then, it's our bad, right? We really need to be using the people that are our advocates. I feel very strongly about that. I need to know you're in my corner.
Yes.
I know you're looking after me. And so if what's the one thing, if you can give our people some advice that now through fourth quarter, what do they need to make sure that we do not close this fourth quarter without doing? What's the one maybe thing that they need to know going forward to cover this before the end of the year, to keep themselves in the best shape?
Gosh,
is there anything?
The single biggest thing is to be very thorough about picking a good tax professional.
I got to say, I'm glad you went back there. I hired someone when I went back into business, and I hired somebody that I got a reference from, a trusted leader in this world, and I